Good morning. This is it. Welcome. Imagivate Live, the premiere episode. It's 8:30 a.m. Eastern. It's 1:30 p.m. in the UK. It's a morning start for some. It's afternoon pick-me-up for others. If you're in Singapore, I hope you're sleeping well. We'll eventually globalize accordingly. But folks, this is very exciting. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for really years. Imagivate Live has been in the works for years. But over the last couple of weeks, we've been doing some pretty intense testing and learning, technology efforts. And so this is our first permutation. It's going to be rough. I'm sure it's going to be rough. I'd like to welcome our Twitch streamers, Little B Fat Brain, one of the earliest followers of the channel, not yet subscribed. Looking to you, Little B Fat Brain. Make it happen. But we've also have opened the doors this morning for the first time. So this is going to be, this is part of the rockiness. We are also streaming live on YouTube. And so I welcome all of our YouTube viewers. You will maybe notice as we chat together, we'll be able to see on the screen right about here all of the chat live coming through the actual broadcast. And so we'll be consolidating the Twitch and YouTube chats. Not exactly sure how that's going to work. We'll see. We'll find out. But in the meantime, I'm going to be able to see what everybody's saying. And I'm really excited to have your participation. Before we jump into the episode, you know, we're off to a sort of organic start. I wanted to first share with you just the plan for the week. If you're planning on joining us every morning, I hope you are. Our intent with Imagivate Live is to be here every day to help you get your day started. Sometimes we're going to be able to make that work. Sometimes we aren't. And I want to make sure that every week when we start it off, we've got a good sense of where we're headed. So let's take a look at the schedule this week. We will be broadcasting live, of course, this morning, Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, we're going to be offline. Thursday and Friday, back, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, to be imagivating all over whatever problems you're trying to deal with each and every day. And I would like to also, I'm very excited to share, it wasn't a terrible enough idea to start Imagivate Live. We're going to have another show right out of the gate this week. I know this is a terrible idea, and that's what Imagivate is all about. So this Thursday, we are going to experiment with a new format, a new format on the Imagivate channel. On Thursday evenings, we're going to do the Thinkubator. What's the Thinkubator? Well, on Thursday nights, we're going to get together and we're going to have an extended visit together on the stream. And we're going to work a little bit harder, deeper, longer on one terrible idea. Because I immediately put this theory out that terrible ideas are disposable and they need to go away, because terrible ideas are fuel to get to less terrible ideas. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But then I thought, well, what do I know? How do I know that you couldn't cultivate a terrible idea across time into a less terrible idea? So what we're going to do is we're going to set that up as a skunk works. We may not do it every Thursday night. We're going to see what the schedule will bear. But this Thursday night, in the Thinkubator, we're going to pull up a terrible idea that's just been sort of sitting there brewing, called Real Actual People. Real Actual People is an idea that combines two great consumer insights. One is people love to play in-person board games and card games. That's a truth. There's another truth, that people also love to play 100-person battle royale games. And yes, welcome, ThoughtWorks. Can't wait to have you be a master Thinkubator on Thursday. It's going to be very exciting. So if we take those two ideas and put them together, we create Real Actual People Royale, which is a 100-person battle royale card game. It's a card game that requires 100 people to be together in person to play it. and it plays out like a battle royale game like you might find online with PUBG or Warzone or Fortnite. So this Thursday night, please join us here, right here on the Imagivate channel for Thursday Night Thinkubator. It'll be 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Sorry, folks in the UK. I know we got a lot of friends that are going to be watching this show. Hopefully, you can stay up late, and maybe we'll experiment. We'll do the Thinkubator at different times, but that's Thursday night. So that's our schedule. I'm so glad to have you here. What are we going to do today? Well, what I'd like to do is start out every day with a little bit of a reset on why we're here. And you might be asking yourself, why am I here? Somebody posted this on LinkedIn. I stumbled upon it. I already feel cheated of my time. I totally understand that. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We are wasting time. But why? Why are we wasting time? Why are we wasting valuable time at the very beginning of your workday? Well, we're doing it because I believe that we don't give ourselves enough time to waste our brain energy on things that are going to help us get to things that are the good use of our brain energy. What is this guy talking about? Here's what I'm talking about. Imagivation is when you use your imagination to excavate terrible ideas. We together in this time, it's brief. I'm just asking for 30 minutes of your time, Mr. or Mrs. Creative Executive, Mr. or Ms. Blood Sack Changer at the hospital. I don't care what sort of career you're in. You are not coming up with enough terrible ideas every day. Terrible ideas are the things that let our brains expand and get to the good ideas. We spend too much time. We spend too much time every day trying to solve problems, right? That's our job. Especially if you know me and you've come into this show through my social world, we have contacts together. We're in the same network together. We're in a creative industry. Likely, you and I met in advertising marketing capacity. Maybe you were on the client side. Maybe you were an agency partner. Maybe you were a freelancer. Who knows? But you know that our job every day is to use creativity to solve problems, big business problems that are going to make or lose a lot of money depending on how they go. We're asked to create solutions, and so we get really panicky and we get nervous because we want to solve that problem, right? Our jobs may depend on it. My job certainly does. And that's why it's I'll be honest with you, it's a little scary to be doing this, because this is a terrible idea. This is a terrible idea for me to be streaming live every day. I'll get back to that in a second. So what do you do when you have to solve that problem? You've got to solve a brief for a client, for an advertising campaign, or you have to solve some sort of problem for your product, trying to figure out how to market to the right people. Where are you going to spend your marketing dollars? And the first thing we do is we try to go after something that looks like the solution. It looks like the answer, because we're worried if we don't come up with it, we're going to be in trouble. But when we do that, we frame up all of our thinking into things that should look like the answer. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because eventually we need to get to the answer. But if we don't allow our brains the time and space to explore possibility, and possibility that lies out on the outer rim of the brief or the context of the problem that we're trying to solve, we might be missing some important triggers to help our brains get to the right thing. And what do I mean by that? Well, if we come up with a terrible idea that we know is going to be way out of budget or out of time scope, or the client can never buy it because it's not really in the brand character, even though that idea may not work, there's something about it that's going to create curiosity, that's going to make us ask questions we might not have asked before. And so when we do that, we give ourselves even more opportunities to solve the problem, because now we're thinking about it in multiple dimensions, and it's very powerful if it's done right. Are we going to do it right? I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I really don't know how this is going to work. For you, it might be a completely useless waste of time, and I apologize ahead of time for wasting your time with this free show that you're not paying for. But if you want to spend a little bit of your morning with me and grease the wheels for what lies ahead, we can get some of that terrible idea energy out together. We can imagivate on something that's very safe. something that's not up against the wall with timing or with a job at stake, but rather just something just fresh and interesting that gives us a chance to kind of flex our brain muscles. Well, let's do it. Let's Imagivate and find out what happens when we do. All right. Well, that's Imagivate. And you know, I'm not going to give you a giant stump speech every time we get started, but I do want to make sure that we understand why we're here. It's getting to terrible ideas. And Thoughtworst and I, hi Thoughtworst, we were talking about what is a terrible idea. Well, we're not really going to worry about defining that just yet. We're going to let anything happen. So let's start. I teased in the description that I wanted to talk about a very trendy sort of thing, but it's a trend that comes and goes, and I think people think about it and then they don't think about it, and that's VR, AR, virtual reality, augmented reality. Some people are now calling it XR because it sounds cool. Cross reality, XR, ZR. Well, they don't call it ZR. We could call it ZR. We can call it ZR. What it is well, what is it? What do you think VR, AR, XR, ZR is? I'll share my thoughts, and I'd love to see what you think in chat. And then we're going to get into some thinking. In fact, let's pop over there right now. Let's go exploring. Hi, thanks for meeting me here at the exploring screen. I've got a web browser, and we're going to occasionally go out into the wild and find some inspiration, find some interesting stuff. And you know, I'm using this platform called Feedly that helps me get to some stuff. And I have this weekend I was looking through and I found this story which I thought we could read together. I actually haven't even really dived in yet to what they're talking about here, but these are shoes that you wear on the boots, virtual reality boots that make it feel like you're walking while you stay in place. So let's maybe take a look at this. I don't know if we'll be able to see this together. Sorry, technical thing. Oops. You guys seeing this still? All right. Did the video work for you? Maybe not. Let's, okay. I'm going to go back because I know what to do. I know what to do. Hold on. I think if I get us back to here, there we go. Oh. All right. Well, anyway, we have nope. Hi everybody. Welcome to behind the scenes at Imagivate Live. You're seeing it all right here. Terrible ideas like using 9 different monitors and trying to keep everything in sync. I know now not to hit the full screen view button on YouTube. Check. Test and learn. Here we are. You're right in the thick of it. All right, so we're on the Imagivate screen now, and this is where we're going to spend a little time thinking about this. So somehow somebody has created virtual boots that let you feel like you're walking around in a virtual space, right? That's bizarre. We've also seen things like there have been these really interesting circular, what would you call these things? They're like you have at gyms, you know, when you're on a treadmill, right? But they're circular, and so they can move in 360 degree space, and they can do that. They can do that dynamically based on where the content is. So one of the things that we need to solve for is mobility, right? So if you're in a VR experience, you've got the goggles strapped on, and you're closed off. By the way, one of the problems that we also have to solve for is isolation. So we can kind of talk about that in a second. But you've got these goggles on, and typically, with the exception of some of the new products that are on the market right now, you're tethered to something. You've got some pretty heavy-duty cabling and stuff like that. So one of the things that we need to sort of talk about with this VR, let's stay in the VR space for right now. VR, virtual reality, would suggest that you are closing yourself off to a contained environment that is only accessible by you, visually, audio wise, and everything. So we'll stay in the VR space, which means this person can't see anything in the real world. So they're wearing these goggles, which, by the way, just really look dumb. That's another thing. Dumb look. We need to solve for that at some point. So there's mobility requires some sort of safety, mechanism or some sort of construct that allows for you to experience mobility, whether that's virtually or real, in a real concrete way, or and do that in a way where you're not gonna walk off of a balcony in your house, unless that's part of the game that you're playing, unless that's something you're interested in, which that's a terrible idea, but who knows? Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about actually falling from a balcony. That might be something we want to explore together too. That's a terrible idea. Doing virtual reality experiences on elevated platforms. And I have enough, there we go, enough sensibility to realize I don't want everything to be behind the screen there. Okay, so the boots are solving for what? They're solving for mobility. What else solves for mobility? This thing. How else can we investigate how can we challenge the convention of VR experiences by creating mobility opportunities? Perhaps we partner. Here's an idea. Let's say that you're playing virtual reality racing game, or like a GTA. Why not partner with Uber? Or what's the other one called? The one that's it's called LARP. There's Uber, and then there's the one with the mustache rides. That's the one. I'm going to start just calling it mustache rides because, look, let's be honest, it's a far better name than whatever the one is that I can never remember. We can partner with Uber. What if you put people in virtual reality experiences actually in a car? And then what you do, so what we're trying to simulate is the experience of the content that the person would be engaging with in the VR world, but creating a simulation in the real world of all of the gravity and movement, the G's that you would be experiencing. So we'd have to, with our Uber partner, we'd have to have some sort of indicators that, hey, they just turned in the game. You need to turn now and turn fast and hard. So there's some sort of synchronization mechanism with the Uber driver's console that syncs up with the game. So that's a terrible idea, that you'd have an Uber driver whose actual turns, acceleration, braking, stopping, starting, going, all of that in sync with just somebody playing a game, and probably playing a game that is encouraging reckless driving patterns. So that's a terrible idea. Great job, we did it. Uber console synced to VR game mechanics. Great. That's a terrible idea. And what can we learn from this terrible idea? I don't know. Well, so first of all, we're talking about a partnership. We're talking about a partnership that would otherwise maybe not have come into play, right? Partnership with a rideshare sort of disruptor. We're talking about a third party. So this driver is actually an external motivator or activator of the experience for that person. So while it's a terrible idea that we would ask an Uber driver to put their life and the life of their passenger into the at the whim of some sort of game, the thought that a third party participant could be affecting this, right? And what did we do? We just actually, now we're starting to talk about solving for isolation, because if I have somebody who is actively incorporated in my VR experience, so one way or another, I'm actually interacting with another human. What if you did that online? What if this sort of third-party impact on your VR experience was happening with somebody who you could just do that in a remote kind of a way, right? Maybe you even do like crowdsourced VR manipulation. So now while I'm on this, I'm wearing those boots, right? I'm wearing those ridiculous boots. Somebody might be able to remotely, maybe even a group of people, crowdsourcing, voting to see like which way I'm going to go, or when the boots might stop working, or something like that. That's kind of interesting. It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea to subject yourself to the whim of a crowd. I think crowdsourcing, by the way, is probably a terrible idea every time. Until you actually really, really massage that mother down, because people, I mean, look around you. People are weird. What else? So we've got this. I think this is interesting that this that we're connecting humans through what would otherwise be an isolated experience. Chad, I'm going to ask you, what's coming to mind? What sort of terrible ideas are happening for you right now? We talked about so boy, this seems to come up actually as a theme quite a bit in what we do. Z space, right? So we've got the idea of falling off of a balcony while you're wearing VR goggles. Bad idea. Terrible idea. Terrible idea. Unless, okay, hold on a second. Follow me here. Imagivate with me. Let's say it's intended, right? So you've got all of these sort of these new burgeoning places where you go to have unique experiences. Maybe it's like one of those parachute simulator things where you jump over a giant fan, or you're doing these climbing walls and stuff like that. Why couldn't you do? And I actually think there's something like this that was happening at the World Trade Center in they had some sort of really amazing virtual reality experience that actually had you going up and down in different dimensions. But why couldn't you walk, if those boots would allow you to feel like you're like walking on a cloud or something, and then maybe you could let somebody fall into a pit of balls, adult ball pit. So this would be, like a Chuck E. Cheese type format, but just updated for adults. So I guess bigger things in the pit, maybe. But this idea of experiencing VR in Z space is actually really quite interesting, don't you think? I mean, especially if with these boots, if the boots are intended to simulate walking or simulate the experience of mobility, going up, maybe they actually do, simulate the change in altitude, for instance, like you're actually walking up a hill. That'd be kind of cool if you could do that if you're in a, flat space. And if I could get the exploring screen to come back up, we maybe even go look at that. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll follow up on that, and we'll talk about it tomorrow morning, because I recognize that we're getting close on our time. We're never ever done coming up with terrible ideas, right? I think we just have to hit a moment in time where we're up against the clock, and so we have to stop, and we got to start culling our terrible ideas down to something that's a little less terrible. It's a little closer into a viable, solvable a solution. But this is a good exercise to do even when let's say you have like 2 or 3 days to work on a project, just to carve out 60 minutes, 2 hours, 30 minutes, whatever you can afford. Get your team together and start coming up with really dumb stuff like this, because I think it proves that you are stimulating thinking that you might not otherwise have triggered, and I think that's pretty powerful stuff. Um, well, here's something else to look forward to. I mentioned our broadcast schedule, and we are very likely going to have a guest Imagivator join us later this week. Thought worst, I'm looking at you. Matt Bledsoe, my former partner at Big Fat Brain, amazing, super smart thinking guy, going to join us maybe Thursday or Friday. We'll figure it out. But my hope is that this was fun. Not a lot of participation this morning. Totally get it. But my hope is that we are able to do this together. The more that we can do this together, the more that you can Imagivate together, the better. Because one person's imagination can only go so far, right? And so I think that when we do it together, when we Imagivate on something together, special things can happen. So we're going to do that. We're going to have Matt join us at some point this week, and I think and many others actually ahead. We've got other folks that are interested in coming in and Imagivating with us. I hope that you actually would like to do that. In fact, if you do, would you please go over to Twitter and tweet at Imagivate and let me know. What did you think about today? What would you like to do? Would you like to be a guest? Would you like to come in and Imagivate with me for a few minutes every morning? I'd love to have you. I'd love to do that. I'd love for us to get together and do that. And if all you really want to do is lurk and you want to hang around here and watch it unfold, that's great too. I would ask you just look at that article. I'll maybe link to it somewhere. I'll throw it up on Twitter. Take a look at that. Let's find out a little bit more about what they're saying with those boots. And maybe when we come back tomorrow, we can hit that before we Imagivate onto something else. Also, by the way, when you send tweets, maybe you've got something in mind that you think we should Imagivate on, that we could just kind of spend some time spinning and reeling and thinking, and let's do it. Let's do that together. So let me know what you have in mind for your own Imagivation, and maybe you even have your own challenge at work or for your brand. Would you want to bring that in here? I don't know. It's a quasi-safe space. It's only broadcasting live on 2 completely open social media network channels. But who's watching? Well, not a ton of folks, but thank you for those who did show up this morning. I'm really excited to have had this time together. And that's it. That's what we do. We wake up every morning. We get our brains working. We grease the wheels for something special by creating things that aren't special at all. They're terrible, in fact. Imagivation is about making terrible ideas, but doing it fearlessly, because there's no real repercussions as long as you aren't putting those in front of people who have your job at stake or your livelihood. Otherwise, it's all pretty safe space to be able to kind of come up with terrible ideas. That's what we're going to do together. We're going to do that every morning on Imagivate Live. Thank you to the folks who joined in YouTube Live and in Twitch. Really excited to have you being a part of the Imagivate clan. And we will see you back here tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 p.m. UK. Folks, have a great day, and we'll Imagivate later.